Good evening and welcome to Black and Azul episode number 53, a post-game edition after the San Jose Earthquakes tie the LA Galaxy, a scoreless draw at Quakes Stadium. My name is Charles Wollin. I am joined by the rest of our wonderful team, Joel Soria, Jamon Moore, Alex Morgan, and our director-producer, Jason Sholl. 5 changes for Matias Almeida this evening after a 7-1 defeat to Seattle. Again, a point at home. Is it a point won? Is it a point earned? Do you think they could have gotten the 3 points? Jamon, I'm going to start with you. Good evening to you at the top of Quakes Stadium.
Hey, good morning, or good evening, Charles. And good evening to the audience. Yeah, I mean, we saw some good things tonight. It wasn't perfect. Obviously, no goals in the net. But I think in some ways it was a step forward. We saw really good performances from the outside backs, from both Marcos Lopez and also Nick Lima. I felt that they both put themselves in a position to get more time as a combo. Guram Kashia and Alanis were pretty calm in the back. And we had an experiment tonight with Tommy Thompson. It wasn't perfect by any stretch, but I do think there was some creativeness that we saw in the first half with him and Jackson Ewell, and with the attacking side with Wando and Shea. So there were some good things, and I think anytime you hold the LA Galaxy with this potent offense scoreless, that's a positive. Now you got to figure out how to create something more in the attack. Second half was pretty boring. The substitutes brought some energy, some of them. It wasn't perfect by any stretch.
I
Joel, your take
agree.
Go ahead, Alex.
I was going to say, I absolutely agree. I think now we have to tune into the post-match press conference, though.
Hi, Coach.
Congratulations on the clean sheet. It felt like we
en lo que es presión, la posesión del balón, un equipo concentrado.
Today we got back that intensity with how we pressed, keeping the ball, and we saw a focused team.
Veníamos de un golpe duro.
We were recovering from a hard hit, a hard blow.
Y sabiendo que este torneo, como lo dije, el primer partido va a ser un torneo difícil para San José.
And we know that, like I said in the first game, it's going to be a hard tournament for San Jose.
Porque quien realmente estudia a San José,
because whoever really studies San Jose,
sabe que nosotros siempre priorizamos el trabajo.
Knows that we always prioritize working.
Y el trabajo se hace durante la semana.
And we work throughout the week.
Quien estudia fútbol,
whoever studies football,
debe saber, antes de opinar,
should know before they give their opinion,
que entrenando un día o 2 a la semana es realmente muy difícil.
That training once or twice a week is very hard.
Eso no significa que sea una excusa.
That does not mean it's an excuse.
Pero un equipo dinámico como el que hemos tenido nosotros cuando hemos sido competitivos,
but a dynamic team like the one that we were when we were competitive,
realmente necesitamos entrenar, y cosa que no podemos por el formato del torneo.
Really needs to train, and that's something we cannot do because of the format of the season.
Sí, hoy los jugadores jugaron con amor propio, con pasión, con ganas.
Today the players played with self-love, with passion and desire.
Y bueno, de esa manera somos competitivos.
And that way we are competitive.
Tommy, en la posición que jugó, me gustó hasta que se cansó.
Tommy, in the position that he played, I liked him up until he got tired.
Es una posición que ya hemos practicado en algunos entrenamientos.
That's a position that we practiced with him in some training sessions.
Y después la entrega ha sido muy buena de parte de todos.
And the delivery was very good on everybody's part.
Thank you, Matthias. Let's go to Alex Morgan.
Hi, Matthias. You played Nick Lima on the right side today. That's his natural side. And he shut down Christian Pavon. And then Marcos Lopez also played well on the left side. You've experimented a lot with your fullbacks recently. Do you think you finally found the best combination in Lima and Lopez?
Hoy Nick Lima jugó de lateral derecho, su posición natural, y lo marcó bien a Cristian Pavón, y también jugó Marco López por izquierda. Experimentaste bastante, probaste bastante con los laterales en diferentes momentos, y ahora pensás que encontraste los laterales que te gustan.
Hay una cosa que lo remarqué recién.
There's something that I just spoke about.
Ellos jugaron bien hoy.
They played well today.
Han tenido partidos buenos, partidos regulares, como todos.
They've had good games, they've had average games like everybody.
El recambio que hacemos nosotros no es en búsqueda de quién va a jugar muchos partidos. El recambio es porque no estamos entrenados.
The changes that we made is not because we're looking to see who's going to keep playing, it's because we haven't been training.
Tenemos un plantel corto con muchos jóvenes.
We don't have a deep squad, and we have many young players.
Entonces el recambio se provoca de una manera natural. No aguantan jugar 2 partidos en una semana.
And the changes happen in a natural way because they cannot play 2 games in a week.
Y desde ahí vamos trabajando en equipo, pero realmente el torneo va a ser difícil para nosotros, como lo está haciendo.
And from there, we work as a team, but this season will be hard for us, as it's been.
Igualmente, yo siempre digo desde la pretemporada que invité a que pudieran venir varios periodistas, sobre todo aquellos que nos siguen siempre.
Still, during preseason, I invited people to come watch us, especially the journalists who always are present.
Para que realmente, una vez que critican,
That way, really, once they criticize,
siempre las críticas son buenas.
being critical is always fine, it's always good.
Las críticas constructivas son buenas.
Constructive criticism is good.
Las críticas destructivas, sin saber a qué entrenamos y por qué entrenamos,
Destructive criticism without knowing how we train or why we
y
train,
haciendo una opinión de un sistema de juego,
and giving your opinion with a system of play
es mentirle a la gente.
is lying to the people.
Entonces yo los invito que vengan todos los días a ver los entrenamientos.
So I'll invite you to come every day to watch the training.
Así la crítica desde ese lugar es constructiva
That way the critiques on that part are constructive,
y este humilde entrenador las acepta como vienen.
and this humble coach will accept them as they come.
Pero las críticas destructivas,
But destructive criticisms,
buscando culpables por perder 7 goles, 5.
For those of you just joining us, you are watching Matias Almeida. We're working on his audio to the press conference. Do apologize for any technical difficulties. We will have that for you right away here. Yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in to Black and Azul episode number 53. We are working on Matias Almeida's audio here from the press conference. We have some of his comments already from the rest of the team. We've been taking some notes. Alex Morgan was able to ask him a question earlier. I believe Jamon Moore and Joel Soria will also have some questions for Matias Almeida. Again, tonight, the Quakes with a 0-0 draw versus LA Galaxy after the 7-1 thumping against Seattle Sounders. Lots of changes for Matias Almeida's team. Again, 5 changes for him this evening. Lots of different players in different positions as well. The rest of the team and I will be here to break it all down for you a little bit more tactically and what we saw, and go through some specific players, of course, as well. And I believe that there will be a player as well at the press conference. So we're hoping to be able to bring that to you as well. Again, appreciate everybody for tuning in. This is only our second time actually carrying the press conference live for you here on Black and Azul, something we'd like to do after we heard your guys' comments and remarks and feedback, which is important because any feedback is good feedback for our show. We want to grow. We want to learn. This is a community run and supported show. So that is important to us. So while we're working on any of the audio here from Matias Almeida, all right, looks like we might have his audio.
Futuro, Quakes.
And here we go.
Pero este torneo es real que va a ser difícil para nosotros.
But this tournament, this season, it's true. It's real that it's going to
Entonces,
be
lo
hard
que
for us.
podemos hacer, aquellos que estamos armando,
So us who are in charge, what we could do
es tratar de corregir los errores rápidamente sin poder entrenarlos
is try to correct the mistakes quickly without being able to practice them,
y remarcarles a ellos que en algún momento jugaron bien al fútbol.
and remind them at a certain moment they played football well.
Y entre todos juntos, en esta unión que estamos siempre en la búsqueda de que el equipo sea unido,
And with everybody together and this unity, which we're constantly looking for the
que de
team to
acá
unify,
al final voy a utilizar a todos los jugadores que tengo.
from here to the end, I'm going to use every player that I have.
Tendremos que salir adelante
We will have to push ahead
y hacer un torneo digno.
and have a tournament with dignity.
Thank you, Matias. Let's just take a couple in Spanish, please. First one from Joel Soria.
Buenas noches, Matías. Joel Soria.
Hola, ¿cómo
¿Me
te va?
escucha?
Sí, claro, buenas noches. Joel,
Buenas noches. Muchas gracias por la invitación.
siempre.
Yo con mucho gusto se la
Esto me
acepto.
dice el primer día que llegué. El primer día que yo no cierro puertas, soy de abrir puertas. Y para recibir crítica, quiero recibir crítica, pero que vean a qué entrenamos. Más allá que sea un entrenamiento, que sean 2, están invitados a venir.
Con mucho gusto, Matías.
Claro.
¿Qué significa esta victoria para el espíritu del equipo?
Yo creo que es un partido importante desde el plano mental, desde la parte psicológica, después de haber venido de estas derrotas. Y era un clásico, entonces jugamos realmente como un clásico. El partido pasado jugó el primero contra el último y se vio reflejado que jugó el primero contra el último. Entonces lo que buscamos nosotros es ser reales, no mentirnos, no mentir. Y sí, cuando las cosas van bien, es porque los chicos tienen esta actitud, estas ganas, esta energía, pero realmente se hace difícil y es real no entrenar y jugar cada 3 días. Con viajes, un día entrenamos, otro día no podemos entrenar porque hay humo. Son, digamos, factores naturales que están afectando a muchos, pero a este equipo le afecta de verdad porque necesita entrenar. Pero es esto lo que hay. Y lo aceptamos, buscamos la vuelta para mejorarlo, pero se ve reflejado en la realidad. Hoy dejaron todo, terminaron los jugadores muy cansados, y ahora hay que ver cómo se recuperan y quién llega para el próximo partido.
Thank you, Matias. We have time for one more question, so let's go to Carlos Eustice. All right, let's go with Carlos Ramirez.
Profe, ¿cómo te va? Buenas noches, Carlos Mauricio
Buenas
Ramírez de Telemundo San José, ¿cómo estás?
¿Cómo estás, Carlos?
Profe, rápidamente, ¿qué desempeño vio de Florian Jungwirth en esa posición que lo puso hoy? Interesante, como volante por delante de los 2 centrales y luego como central en esa salida a la Volpiana. Y por último, profe, un breve comentario sobre si con lo que vio este fin de semana de un referente como lo es Marcelo Bielsa y su Leeds, si encuentra algún tipo de paralelismo, inclusive de motivación para su equipo, tomando en cuenta el camino que llevó ese club y dónde está ahora, y si le sirve de algo extraer para su propia experiencia y para sus jugadores en San José. Gracias.
Mira, la primera creo que era el partido para jugarlo con Florian en esa posición, porque dentro de la presión que ejercemos teníamos un líbero. Pero por eso que digo, muchas veces hay que estudiar bien el fútbol para poder opinar. Siempre hemos recibido críticas del primer partido de nuestro sistema de juego. Inclusive algunos dicen que es un método antiguo, otros hablan, es una cuestión de gusto. Ahora, para presionar, como presionamos nosotros, que quien nos estudia hacemos todos los partidos presiones diferentes, no es lo mismo. Se requiere una parte física importante. Es nuestro sistema. Para algunos que no saben nuestra trayectoria, hemos ganado 7 títulos jugando de una manera parecida. Y el fútbol nunca va a ser antiguo. El fútbol es el mismo que se juega hace 200 años. Hay gustos futbolísticos que van respetados. Este sistema de juego permite, lo he dicho más de una vez, por eso que quien escucha debe tener memoria. Porque si vamos a los archivos, yo no voy a quedar expuesto por el archivo. El archivo me va a habilitar para que siga hablando de lo que hablo porque lo entreno. Entonces, este sistema que utilizamos nosotros es para que cada jugador sea cada vez más completo, ¿no? Las grandes ligas del mundo tienen jugadores completos. ¿Completo qué significa para mí? Que atacan y defienden. Más de una vez dije que en San José todos corren y todos juegan. A veces jugamos bien, a veces jugamos mal. Ahora, hay que tener respeto cuando uno habla, porque yo jamás diría que un periodista me hizo una mala pregunta. Lo respeto. Ahora, cuando un periodista habla de un sistema de juego y critica duramente a jugadores y a entrenadores, en esta época es feo. Es realmente falta de respeto. Sobre todo y del año pasado por entrar a los playoffs hasta el último partido. Somos el equipo que por ahora ha invertido menos dinero. Entonces, vamos a hablar con la realidad. Hablemos con la realidad. Un equipo que fue último antes que llegara yo, peleó por el playoff el torneo pasado, haciendo grandes partidos con equipos realmente formados con otra economía. Y cuando fuimos a Orlando, entrenamos 2 semanas nada más, porque no nos permitieron entrenar acá, y estuvimos, digamos, se hablaba de que podíamos pelear el torneo. Entonces, el exitismo y el resultadismo, por lo menos conmigo, no van. Los respeto a aquellos que tienen esa visión de ver el fútbol, pero yo los invito a que vean por qué entrenamos y para qué. ¿Por qué hacemos una presión y para qué? Y el día que vienen hacemos nota, y yo no tengo problema en quedarme el tiempo que sea para hablar y sacarse todo tipo de dudas. Lo de Marcelo Bielsa es algo que viene desde hace mucho tiempo. Su sistema nunca lo ha cambiado. Varía en jugadores. La propuesta siempre es una propuesta ofensiva y de pura dinámica. Y bueno, yo he tenido grandes entrenadores de los cuales he sacado muchas cosas. He tenido a él, he tenido a Rigo Sacchi, he tenido a Pasarela, he tenido un montón de entrenadores de los cuales he aprendido cosas y trato de poner una impronta mía. Y siempre digo, no quiere decir que sea ni lo mejor ni tampoco lo peor, es fútbol. Y lo más fácil en el fútbol es jugar fácil, paseándosela a un compañero. Y teniendo movilidad. Y después hay que marcar. Y bueno, nosotros tenemos una manera de marcar. Ahora, las lecturas, cuando escucho a algunos personajes que hay, las lecturas siempre la hacen mal. Entonces yo los invito a que se saquen la duda y yo les explico qué lectura podemos hacer. Y después pueden decir si está bien o mal.
Okay, thank you, Matthias, and thank you, Augustine.
Saludos, los espero.
We'll be bringing in a player shortly. If you guys just hang on for a few.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to Matias Almeida El Pelado's press conference there. We're cutting in and out just a little bit as well. Do apologize for the inconvenience, but we like giving you guys the press conference and being able to showcase that. We will be back as well with an Earthquakes player as well. Joel Soria, you had a chance to ask a question just moments ago, and Matias Almeida actually on the last question there had a pretty long response. Care to kind of summarize what he was talking about there in English for us? And I think Joel,
yeah,
a little bit of your
so much to unpack there.
There you go.
So much to unpack there from Matias. He talked about Bielsa. He talked about the realities for him here in San Jose. And he's bothered. He's bothered about the critics. He wasn't happy with what we and the rest of my colleagues had to say about his 7-1 performance in Seattle. He extended an invitation to all of us to go and watch him play. And he said that some of the critics were disrespectful to him and towards his players and towards the system that he's trying to impose here in San Jose. So yeah, body language wasn't the best. His words obviously were the words of someone who's a bit bothered by some of the critics that have been thrown his way. But all in all, I thought that today was very positive for the Quakes. Keeping in mind that a couple of nights ago they swallowed 7. They come out and they put a good shift against one of the hottest teams in the league. I think that the Quakes definitely stepped up. They held their own, and now we hear Matias talk about some of the things that he's talked about in the past. The team not having the deepest roster, not being able to train consistently, dealing with fires, dealing with COVID, a lot of irregularities, having a lot of youngsters on the field at once. All these things that have definitely taken a toll on the team. But one thing that he wanted to emphasize was that the critics were wrong, and that the critics haven't been just and haven't been fair, and I think that Matias is definitely bothered about that. But today he walks away with a point. I'm sure his team's in better spirits now.
I was prepared to come and talk about how the changes he made tonight were the right changes, and that's why the Quakes looked very improved tonight. But that was a bit of a baffling press conference. That was, I think, the most combative, the most animated I've ever seen him. He took a lot of our criticism personally, it sounded like. He was talking about how the critics, which is basically us, are making destructive comments. Look, our comments aren't destructive. The destruction happened on the field on Thursday night when the Quakes were beaten 7-1. And we suggested these changes for him to make. We said that Paul Marie shouldn't be starting, Luis Felipe shouldn't be starting, Marcos Lopez shouldn't be starting on the same side as Vaca. And to Almeida's credit, he made those changes. Those were the right changes. And that's why the Quakes were able to hold a scoreless draw tonight. They were able to keep the Galaxy off the scoreboard. And it was a competent and composed performance from the Quakes. This is exactly what they needed after the 7-1 defeat to Seattle. So I'm surprised that Almeida was so feisty in that press conference.
He was feisty, but one thing that really stuck with me was that he said that what his system tries to do is make every player a complete player. He says that in the major European leagues, every player is a complete player, and that's what his system's trying to do. He's not solely focused on, winning it all. He's not so much focused on getting positive results day in and day out. He talks about, building a system that is going to maximize the potential of each player. Now, that makes me a little worried because during his time at Chivas, he was there for one reason and one reason only. He was there to win trophies. He was there to lift silverware. I guess that's not the number one focus in San Jose. I wonder why. I mean, we obviously know why. The team doesn't invest, and when it has invested, it hasn't hit the right notes. Right? We talk about Carlos Fierro today, who didn't step the field $800,000 down the drain. You have Andy Rios, who was also touted to be the Quake savior up top, and he hasn't produced as much as people thought he was going to produce. And these are some of the deficiencies, obviously, within the team. But with to be sincere, obviously the team held their own today against a very potent attack. The field helped a little bit, but all in all, there's a lot of positives, and we'll get into those shortly.
Yeah, he also mentioned, he said, today the players played with passion and desire. The delivery was very good on everyone's part. As far as referring to Nick Lima at right back, he said Nick played well today. He has good games and he has average games like everyone else. He said changes happen in a natural way because they cannot play 2 matches in a week, and kind of referring to how he's going to be kind of making those changes this evening. Let's come to the midfield here, because Judson has started pretty much most matches for this team, but Florian Jungwirth has come back into this defensive midfield position this evening. Judson came back on in the second half. But what do we make of this midfield trio of Tommy Thompson, Florian Jungwirth, and Jackson Ewell back in the side this evening?
I think it's difficult from one game really to get a sense for how well this could work as a regular starting combination. I think overall it worked okay. We did see some interplay and some switches, like I mentioned earlier, that we really hadn't seen in a while, and it looked like those 3 were very comfortable together. Even if sometimes the pass was a bit errant, if someone wasn't exactly where they needed to be all the time, that would only come with a little bit more time. But I think it was off to a good start. I also liked Eric Cavillo's performance tonight. I felt when he came on, he did a pretty good job in that position. And I could see him giving Tommy or somebody else a battle to be able to get a bit more time in that central midfield. It'll be interesting, where Almeida goes from here for the next game on Wednesday, because I think he's probably going to look at this tape and come away with a thought process around Eric Cavillo that maybe he hadn't had before. I think a lot of people that saw him felt he had a good night. So all in all, as everyone said, I think it was a positive performance. It was certainly a step forward, and we'll see from here kind of what he decides to do with that central midfield.
How are the conditions this evening, guys, in terms of the weather out there with the air quality and the pitch? It seemed to be that there were a few players, slipping as well. I see a comment in here by Nathan Zaragoza, who says our pitch is truly our best defender sometimes. LOL. Did it really hinder these players left and right? I remember a challenge between Florian Jungwirth and Efrain Alvarez, I think, down that right side. And he got caught up a little bit. Yeah.
Definitely. The pitch looks soggy from our point of view. The conditions, a bit chilly, as you can tell, also a bit smoky, hazy in the back. But the pitch overall was in pretty bad shape, I would say. Very soggy, as I mentioned. Chicharito slipped inside the box a couple of times, and so did Julian Araujo as he was making his way into the box from the right flank. Pitch came in clutch, definitely, for the Quakes tonight.
All right, it looks like Jackson Ewell is now speaking. We're going to go to that part
I think a little throwback to my first year. I think we were all in the midfield at one point then, so it was pretty cool to play with those guys again. I think the way we play and the qualities of everyone is flexibility, and I think those two did a really good job coming into the midfield. I think we held our position well, and defensively we're really solid.
Thank you, Jackson. Let's go to Jamon Moore.
Hey, Jackson. Congratulations on the point. What was it that you guys said to each other that needed to change after such a loss as you had against the Seattle Sounder?
We wanted to come out with unity, and we wanted to be a team again and to press like a team. And I think against the Sounders, we're missing a little bit of that aggression and that team bond that we carry with us. So today, I think our goal was to be aggressive, be confident in one another, trust each other, and just play for the guy next to you. And I think the team did really well with that today.
Thank you, Jackson. Let's go to Carlos Ramirez.
Oh, hi, Jackson. The team has 3 games in 6 days, even though they're all at home. How do you prepare? How do you get involved as a team and give your best with such a tight schedule?
Yeah, I think you saw today with a little bit of the change of lineup. We have depth, and we need everyone to be ready to play. These are tight games, and I think the lineup will change from player to player and a lot because the games are so close together. And so I think it's a team game, and we're going to need all the guys on the roster to be ready and to give it their all. So yeah, I think we're excited that we have these next couple of games at home, but we're definitely ready, and I think everyone is prepared to step on the field and give everything.
Thank you, Jackson. Let's take 2 more questions. We'll start with Joel Soria.
Hey, Jackson. What does a hard-earned draw against the Galaxy like that mean for the spirits of the team?
Yeah, of course, we come out, especially at home, trying to win every game. I think we've the last couple of games have been difficult and challenging for us, and a little bit of a setback. So today, I think we wanted to come out with confidence and a unity within the team to just get back to the way we play and get back to our style of playing. And this point was really good. They have a really good team. They have really good players, and they're top of the table for a reason. And I think it was a well fought point. We're always going to push for more, and we need to keep building on this momentum to climb our way back up the table. But I think tonight was a good starting point to get us back on track.
Thank you, Jackson. Let's take one last question from Alex Morgan.
Hi, Jackson. You guys kept a clean sheet tonight, which is obviously a marked improvement from Thursday. And the defense looked a lot better, particularly in defensive transitions. What adjustments did you guys make to improve that defense and those transitions in particular?
Yeah, I think we had certain tactical plans that helped us a lot today, and I think that those kind of led to a few opportunities for their dangerous guys. I think we were a little man advantage at the back a lot of the times, which we wanted to be, and I think that helped eliminate their strong players and their dynamic players. So I think it was a collective effort, and I think everyone played their part in doing the tactics right.
All right. Thank you very much, Jackson, for being with us tonight.
Yes.
We should be bringing in Nick Lima shortly.
There you have Jackson Ewell. Nick Lima is obviously going to be coming up into the press conference shortly, so we'll bring that to you as well. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to our program. We are Black and Azul. Make sure that you give us a like, a subscribe, maybe tell a couple of other folks about this. Again, this is our second time bringing you the live press conferences, our first time really doing it with full video. Jackson Ewell saying he wanted to come back with unity and confidence and get back to our style of play. And he gave a lot of plaudits and respect to the LA Galaxy this evening, said they're a really good team for a reason. And he said in order to climb the table, this is a really good starting point for him. Alex, I'll come back to you and your question to him. And how did you think that he did this evening, Jackson?
I thought Jackson looked really good. I mean, they certainly missed him against Seattle on Thursday, and I think he connected well with Tommy Thompson in the midfield, in that new look midfield. Tommy played more on the right side, which meant he could utilize his strong connection with Espinosa and make some of those darting runs into the box where he wins a lot of penalties. And he looked strong, but I don't really think he got involved enough. I would have liked to have seen him get on the ball more. Certainly better than Vaco, though, who came on the field and then put his head down and started running into 4 or 5 Galaxy defenders. So the Quakes didn't get on the score sheet tonight, but I think it's the defense where they made the most improvements.
Joel Soria?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought Jackson stepped in. He did well. He obviously, took control of the midfield there. Had a couple of brilliant spots in the game where he was, juggling and taking over Tommy's pregame role back here at Earthquake Stadium. But no, I think Jackson was a positive. I also think that Lopez was a big bright spot for the Quakes, and as was Nick Lima. I think that those are the fullbacks for the future for this team. I don't think that personally that many other fullbacks have brought that same style of play that both of the aforementioned players brought today. They brought a lot of composure. They had a lot of threat. Nick really opened the field a bunch for Cristian Espinosa, and Lopez just looks very poised on the ball. He looks calm. He looks confident. Had a couple of good crosses inside the box. Had also the assist that was obviously called off late there in the match, and positives from these younger players, definitely something to build from after tonight.
I completely agree about Marcos Lopez and Nick Lima. Joel, I think what the Quakes needed to do tonight was shut down Christian Pavon, because he absolutely terrorized Tommy Thompson when the Quakes faced the Galaxy a couple weeks ago and lost 3-2. Tommy just doesn't have the pace, and he didn't have the 1v1 defending skills to defend someone like Pavon. But Nick Lima absolutely shut him down tonight. Pavon was sort of a non-player. I think that very well could be San Jose's. Might have found his best combination of fullbacks with Lopez and then Lima on that right side.
Yeah, tonight actually felt like a bit of a throwback to me to 2017 when everyone saw Nick Lima shut down Piatti against Montreal in the very first game of the season. And everyone said, oh my goodness, this is our academy kid. He's amazing. And, I felt that same kind of energy coming from the field without the fans in the stands, but I felt it with the way that Nick Lima played tonight. He played with intensity. He picked up a yellow card early, and it didn't stop him from what he needed to do, which was to shut down Pavon, and I thought that was really good. From a little bit more about Marcos Lopez, honestly, this might have been the best game that we've seen from a left back in I don't know how long. It might have been well over a year. I thought he was excellent. He got into situations where he was under pressure. He made movements. He had step overs. He had spin arounds. He was able to do what he needed to do to protect the ball, and more often than not, he was able to find the right pass in order to relieve pressure. And that's actually something, considering his age, that actually shows something, because he's only 20 years old. And he's only going to get better with time and get more poise. And I was impressed with him against Colorado tonight. He actually impressed me even more.
I think that's a good point you make, Jamon, about Lopez, because one of the reasons that Nick Lima was playing out of position on the left side instead of the right side was because the Quakes didn't really have any left-sided fullbacks in their roster. That's a gap that they've had since Jordan Stewart left the club eons ago. So now Lopez looks ready to take that role, so it feels more natural for Lima to return to the right side.
What do we make of the performance of Daniel Vega this evening in goal? He has received some criticism in the past over the last number of matches, and JT Marcinkowski was on the bench. But clean sheet for Vega. He came up with some big-time saves this evening. But where do we stand with his performance this evening? He certainly got his confidence back.
Well, clearly he's not the problem, right? Clearly he stepped up and had a couple of saves tonight that, secured the Quakes a point. He's done it well the majority of the year. And yes, he's had his lows. He's had a couple of big blunders, but for the most part, he holds his own, he holds his ground, and he had a decent save in the first half. The ball was going to the back post. He was able to get it out from going into the back of the net. And I thought that was commendable.
Yeah, Vega had a good night. You know, he kept people organized. He had the right leaders, I think, in front of him that also helped, but the communication was much better. And you could see that he was getting on his players when they gave, you know, one of the Galaxy attackers a little bit too much. You know, he was on them, making sure that they knew that he didn't appreciate it. And you know, let's be honest. You know, I mentioned in an article this week that his goals versus expected goals from the keeper position are not very good. He's toward the bottom of the league. But in all fairness, the Quakes have given up the most shots in the league this year, and they haven't even played as many games as most teams in the Western Conference. So he's under a lot of pressure every game. He's facing a lot of shots that he is needing to deal with. And so from that perspective, while his save percentage isn't as high as maybe it ought to be, he's still dealing with more pressure than just about any other goalkeeper in the league right now, considering the number of shots against him. Looks like Tommy Thompson is joining the press conference right now.
While we stand by for Tommy, I was just going to add, basically, you know, we've criticized Vega a lot on this show, but tonight was a strong performance. It was solid. He made a couple of strong saves to keep the Quakes in this game, right? I don't know how much that changes anything. I still think that JT or Bersano deserve a shot in goal, but as Joel said, tonight Vega wasn't the problem. He had a strong performance, and he deserves credit for that.
Well, outside from you and Jamon wanting JT on the field, there's really no reason to have him on the field. I think that both of the keepers that you named should remain on the bench, and Vega should be the number one option between the sticks. You know, he held his ground here in the Quakes a point in a way, and you know, he was able to keep the team together from the back. You know, I recall Matias.
I recall Matias and Vega chatting, you know, mid-game, and Matias uses Vega as kind of like the megaphone of the team. You know, Vega's obviously always shouting out, but he's specifically shouting out orders that he gets from Matias. I thought that in particular was very crucial for the team tonight. And I'm sure it's a routine thing, but we, you know, in a stadium filled with 14,000 people, you can't hear those things. And obviously now we get a different insight into those specifics.
Yeah, I believe that the main thing that people want to do in terms of the backup goalkeepers, I think they want to see them have the same chance that other young players are getting to show what they can do. In all fairness, we don't actually know. We don't know if they would put in a better performance than Daniel Vega, because we haven't seen it. And I think at this point, what people just want to know is, you know, where are they in their development? Just like we're getting the chance to find that with guys like, you know, Eric Cavillo and with Cade Cowell, who got some more time tonight. I feel like every time we see Cade Cowell, we learn something new. We learn something positive, and we also notice a deficiency. And it helps us be able to have a rational conversation around what he brings, you know, to this team. And is he ready to be a starter yet or not? And I feel like every game we get more consensus around where he's at right now and what his future could look like for growth. The problem is, without any games going on in Reno for Bersano and JT, we just don't know where they're at right now in their development. But you know, Vega, you know, for now, obviously gonna keep the starting spot if he continues to put in performances like tonight. I don't think there's going to be calls for a keeper switch. I think people are just curious as to why, for some reason, the goalkeepers are not getting the same opportunities as the other players, you know, on the field are getting.
And look here, Jamon, I think Marcelo has a good comment here. Matthias just invited us to come watch training. So if we can, I'm sure we will all be attending San Jose Earthquakes practice if the COVID precautions allow. And we will be watching JT Marcinkowski and Matt Bersano and trying to gauge how they look, what we see from them. And we'll report to you guys whether or not we think they're ready, they're capable of taking that starting position. Certainly Matthias doesn't think so. He's made that abundantly clear.
Yeah, and I said it a couple weeks ago on this show, but the goalkeeping position is a sensitive position. It's not just, a chop change. And while I do believe that, you should probably know who the number 2 is, and it has been noted that I believe that we on our team, we had got some information that in Matthias's quotes, he doesn't know who his number 2 is, and if he had to choose between Bersano and JT Marcinkowski, who he would choose. That is a little bit slightly problematic to me. However, with that being said, it's quite clear and it's well documented that Matias Almeida has a relationship with Vega. He trusts Vega, and a manager of his caliber with a big personality, is going to have, a special relationship with his goalkeeper, especially out of the back, especially dictating out of the back. And while Vega has made mistakes, parried the ball here and there, and made some mistakes specifically in that Minnesota game, which, I know that were easy to maybe clean up or to criticize. This guy is going to be staying with Vega, and that's just how it is. What the great part about this is we can have a debate about this, and what the most awesome thing is we can do that. So here's Tommy Thompson.
Tommy, thanks for being with us tonight. Let's jump right into it. Robert Jonas.
Thank you, Jake, and thank you, Tommy, for taking time tonight. That was at least to the observer, that was a very different game than we saw you guys play up in Seattle. Not only the sort of the all-around effort, but guys in different positions. You yourself included as a midfielder tonight. I wanted to ask you kind of two-part question. What did you feel was the difference tonight? In the team's effort, in the team's performance, maybe compared to the last couple of games. And then secondly, do you feel that a scoreless result was fair for the performance?
Yeah, I think it was a hard-fought game, and I think our energy and our discipline as a team was one of the biggest differences. We made it clear in the locker room that we wanted to show something different, like that what happened on Wednesday. It couldn't happen today, and we want to make sure that we were in good shape and we were doing everything we can to get back to the performances that we had in Orlando. So we have a different schedule, right? We have a difficult schedule right now. There's a lot of games and not a lot of time. So there's not a ton of time for training. So everyone's got to be ready. Everyone's got to be on their toes, and everyone's got to contribute in any way that they can.
Thank you, Tommy. Let's go to Jamon Moore.
Hey, Tommy, congratulations on the point day.
Thank you.
My question is about the central midfield combination tonight. You were with Jackson Ewell. Looked like you guys were kind of side by side with Florian supporting you. You guys have been together for a while now. Is this like getting back on the bicycle and it feels comfortable? Or is there still kind of going to be a learning process here when we put together a combination like that haven't played together in those positions for a while?
Yeah, me and Jackson go way back, actually. We even played together at a soccer camp for a couple of years in a row back in Wisconsin when we were like 10 years old. So, and then on top of that, he's been my teammate at the Earthquakes since 2017, I think it was. So we played together a ton, and I felt comfortable with him out there. I think his ability to find passes under pressure is next level. So I'm doing everything I can to get comfortable as quickly as I can. I felt good tonight, and I think this was a good step forward for us to continue to go in the right direction, to turn the ship around.
Thank you, Tommy. Let's take 2 more questions here. We'll start with Carlos Ramirez.
Hi, Tommy. Buenas noches. Congratulations. How do you feel on that midfield versus being a right back? Where do you feel more comfortable?
Yeah, so it's interesting because, you know, I've been playing MLS for 7 years now, and the majority of that was as a central midfielder, as a winger. So initially the switch to right back was something that I had to get used to. But then under this system, I've spent a year and a half on that side with Christian. So I got really comfortable there. So there's a couple things that there will be a learning curve for. I mean, receiving the ball in the middle of the field is completely different than receiving as an outside back. So I feel comfortable. It's a position that I've played in a ton of games already at this level. So it's just going to take some time to really get to where I want to be. But I think tonight was a good start.
Thank you, Tommy. One last question from Alex Morgan.
Tommy, you also had a lot of connections tonight with Christian Espinosa on the right side. Obviously, you know, you play on the same flank as him. Now in the midfield as well. How do you guys take advantage of that connection that you have to create chances going forward?
Yeah, I think ever since Christian has arrived here in San Jose, we've had a good connection on and off the field, and he's a great player. He was a great signing for us, and anytime I'm on the field with him, I want to get him the ball. He attacks so well, and he's gotten a ton of assists, so I want to just put him in the right positions for this team to succeed. And yeah, I think tonight, like I said, was a step in the right direction. We wanted the 3 points, and we're going to continue to press teams at home and to make sure we're doing everything we can to get back to that team that you guys saw in Orlando.
All right. Thank you, Tommy, very much for being with us tonight, and thanks to everyone for participating.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
There you have Tommy Thompson right there in the press conference saying our energy and our discipline as a team was different. He said what happened Wednesday could not happen today. He said we played together a ton. He felt comfortable with him out there in terms of him playing with Jackson Ewell. He said that Jackson Ewell's ability to find passes under pressure out there is next level. Tommy Thompson also said he felt good tonight. He felt that this was a big step forward for us to continue to turn the ship around.
I mean, they did exactly that, right? The easier thing today would have been for them to come out and be flat-footed and overrun by a Galaxy team that has been fire ever since they came back from Orlando. But they held their own. They showed a lot of grit, a lot of tenacity, a lot of effort. And it looks, for now, that the Quakes are actually going to bounce back from this. Who would have thought? You know, just like I said, a couple of nights ago, they were in a very, very dire state and one of the lowest points in the organization's history. They were able to bounce back in proper fashion. And we'll have to wait and see if they can hold on to it because, as you guys have noticed, the schedule does not look easy at all. There's going to be a lot of trials that they're going to have to face. You know, you have LAFC, you have going up against RSL. There's just a couple of good teams there. Timbers obviously back-to-back as well. That's not going to be easy for Matias and his men. But you know, what I'm getting from these post-match interviews is that, you know, the team is actually in a good mental state at the moment. This point here obviously benefits them tremendously. I would have imagined that they would have been in much worse shape mentally. Physically, they also looked decent out there. I'm surprised that they were able to hold their own for 90 minutes. Not bad for the Quakes, obviously, tonight.
I think the improvement was as much tactical as it was mental, though, Joel. I think one of the big reasons San Jose looked so much better, their shape was so much better, was because of defensive transitions. When they lost the ball, their first instinct was to drop and cover, and then after that, find their marks. And that stopped the Galaxy from exploiting them in the transition in the same way that the Sounders did. We talked about that. We analyzed that on our pregame show with Carl Carpenter. If you haven't seen that yet, I'd suggest you check out that segment, because that's exactly what the Quakes did tonight. They made the improvement in those defensive transitions. They played a little more zonally. They were willing to drop back and cover before they identified their marks. And I think that's in large part why they were able to shut down guys like Christian Pavon and Chicharito, who play so quickly in transition.
Yeah, it was a combination of transitions, and I also felt that partially it was on set pieces. They looked better organized on set pieces. They were able to snuff out the danger in most situations. Vega, I think, had to make one save. And other than that, they did a really good job, I thought, defending corners with a lot of attacking options in the box for the Galaxy. So transitions, dropping and understanding what the threats were, and being able to take away those threats as quickly as possible. And again, credit back to the outside backs, because a lot of that was on them. And it was on a little bit of Flo Youngworth as that central defensive midfielder as well, particularly with Judson getting a rest for the first 60 minutes or so of the game. So if they can retain the intensity on the set pieces, if they can keep their marks, and if they can fix the transitions, honestly, they just need to get the attack going again. Once they get the attack going again, then I think we'll start to see them getting 3 points instead of 1. Now the question is, they got 2 more home games here before they go back on the road. Can they make that transition quickly and start to actually turn home games into 3 points rather than just 1? That's what is in front of this team right now. It's been a very long time since they won a home game, going back to last season.
Yeah, getting to the 3-point mark is going to take a lot of creativity from the number 10. I tweeted this after the game. I said, the Quakes obviously were positive tonight, but they're in dire need of a number 10. A number 10 that is going to change the fortunes of this club. They obviously don't have that. They took a big gamble getting rid of Eriksson. They didn't have a instant replacement for him. Tonight, Tommy, was it good enough? Was good enough to maintain that 0-0, was good enough to move the ball, but really didn't have that attacking bite and struggled physically, right? We know that he got winded 50 minutes in and had to get subbed off shortly after. When the Quakes actually go out and they make a big splash for a number 10 that can generate goals, that can generate play assists, that can really just shine in that final third, they'll be able to turn around these points and these 1-point games and make them into 3. That's really what they need. I don't know if the Quakes are going to go out and get someone before the end of the primary transfer window, but I do imagine that the winter will definitely bring one to San Jose.
And just to clarify, that secondary transfer window closes on October 29th. So the Quakes have between now and October 29th to make any moves they want to make for this season.
I actually think that the Quakes need someone exactly like Efrain Alvarez. For the Galaxy, he played in that position tonight, and he looked fantastic. He was making those passes, running in behind, looked good on the dribble. He's an 18-year-old academy product, Mexican international. He looked really promising tonight. But for the Quakes, they're going to obviously have to go to the transfer market. And General Manager Jesse Fiorinelli has promised to sign DP, probably from the South American market at some point this year. So we're keeping our ears and eyes open for any news regarding those transfers. I think if the Quakes could potentially make a deal happen, soon, that would be a huge injection of energy and a sign from the ownership of this team that they're willing to invest in the future of the San Jose Earthquakes.
Ooh, and just to be clear, I came to this conclusion because Vako was disappointing tonight. He really was. He came out here for 20, 30 minutes and showed little ambition on the field. And even just here on the touchline warming up earlier today, he was really slacking, getting a couple of corrections from fitness trainer Guido Bonini, just a player that is obviously not in the right place at the moment. You can tell by his body language. He's sluggish out there. I mean, we know that Vako has always been the player who's going to be putting in 60% instead of 100, but I think I want to believe that his time in San Jose is coming up, and I'm sure that both parties are more than interested in negotiating a departure for Vako, because it just hasn't been going well for the Georgian here in San Jose, and obviously the Quakes haven't been benefiting from his magic that he sure has, but he doesn't like showing it very often.
Let's take a look at the standings here. Major League Soccer standings. The Quakes take on Portland Timbers on Wednesday, and then on Saturday evening, both at Avaya Stadium. Earthquake Stadium. And then they travel to Colorado the following Wednesday, and then they're at LAFC as well to wrap up the September month. So they've got 10 points. The top 8 there are going to make the Western Conference playoffs. There will be another round of fixtures announced, I think, at the end of September for October, and then I think that's the final round of fixtures. I think it'll be another 6 fixtures. You can correct me if I'm wrong there, Jamon. But there they are in the table tonight after the point.
Yeah, we're expecting 6, and we got 3 more. So we are expecting to get another 3 and then another 6 a little bit later on. And that's what the Quakes have. That's the opportunity they have to get back into the playoff race and be able to try to make something out of this season.
Not an easy schedule, though, right? You look at it, you have back-to-back games against the Timbers, who I'm not sure if they won tonight or not, against LAFC, and then you have the Rapids, and you have LAFC as well. I mean, that's a tough draw for the Quakes. They know that. They voiced that in the past. It's an uphill battle for them now. Obviously they're only 4 points out of the playoff spot, but work's cut out in front of them. Let's see how they react tonight. I think they will definitely go back home and get some sleep after missing out on plenty of it after the Seattle game.
I mean, the only thing that I would add is that these games are coming really fast. They're playing 3 or 4 more games in the next 2 weeks. They barely have 1 or 2 nights of rest. So even though tonight's lineup played very well and looked very strong, Matias Almeida, his hand is going to be forced. He's going to have to rotate some players into that starting 11, just because they can't go 90 minutes 2-3 times a week. So I think that's going to be a cause for concern, because the Quakes do not have a deep roster. We saw that against the Seattle Sounders when they rotated in guys like Luis Felipe, who had an abysmal match. And so, yeah, that's something to watch out for. I think the Quakes don't have a deep roster, so they could struggle down the stretch here.
Just want to get to a couple of questions, and then I do want to wrap up since it is getting late here on everyone's schedules, and it is going to be Monday tomorrow. Want to make sure everyone gets a good night's rest. Gregory Cohn asks, so did Almeida compromise on his system? I think this was a good sign. I don't think that Almeida necessarily compromised too much on his system. I just think that there was just personnel changes and a big chop change that he made. But yes, it was a good sign this evening. Joel, what did you think?
Go ahead, Joel.
I wouldn't say that he compromised the system. I would say that he compromised a handful of players, right? And this is the game that Matias is going to be playing in the future. He's not going to change his style. He talked about how Bielsa didn't change his style earlier today in his press conference. And he said that with a lot of positivity. He said that with a lot of respect and a lot of admiration. I think the players obviously know that their job's on the line, and that a handful of them won't have a contract next season. So he's going to give them a shot. And tonight he switched it up. Different changes, different players, different scenery, same style, a more effective style. We need to remind ourselves that when this style gets played correctly, it can look very distinct at times, and it can be a very attractive style. But it's also it's a very intense style. So when you get 20% out of it, it looks completely different. When you see it at 100%, it looks like some of the best, most entertaining soccer you've ever watched. So I wouldn't say that he's going to compromise his style. He's never going to do that. Pelado has always gone up front. He's always pressured. He's always really, really promoted that high press and that attack first mentality. We saw that at times today. I mean, the Quakes were high up in the field trying to press the Galaxy's back line. That's not going to change. Having wide fullbacks isn't going to change. Having a double pivot isn't going to change. Having a number 10 that really glues a team together isn't going to change either. But personnel change is going to change, and that's what we saw tonight, and that's what we're going to continue to see. That's what the Quakes have to work with at the moment, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. But if you're trying to win silverware, or if you're trying to compete and be competitive, then that's when it becomes a problem.
Well, Joel, I think what Gregory might be referring to here is the defensive transitions. He's saying in the comments, we zonal marked tonight in the back. That's not entirely true. The Quakes are still man marking across the field. It's just in those defensive transition moments that they're making sure first to be able to drop and cover, and then to find their marks. That's something that Marcelo Bielsa does at Leeds United. They did in their Premier League opener against Liverpool this weekend. They man mark across the field as well. But Liverpool are such a dangerous attacking team in transition, as are the Galaxy. So when the opposition is when they lose the ball and the opposition is breaking, their main priority is to tuck back in defense and get a solid back four in a good defensive shape. And that's something that the Quakes did tonight as well. I don't know if it's necessarily compromising. They're still man marking across the field, but it is a small adjustment that paid dividends, had a huge impact tonight.
I think it was just really getting back to what made them successful at MLS's back, defensively at least. Offensively, not there yet, obviously, but they were able to recapture the methodology and the part of Almeida's system that allowed them to play better defensively at MLS's back. That's what they got back to. As we talked about before the game, that was a key, and they were able to execute that and pick up the clean sheet.
Let's talk about John Fisher being at the game. Lots of chatter and discussion about the ownership group after the 7-1 drubbing against Seattle. And Joshua Marroquin said, any rumors on why Fisher was at the game today? And Joel, I think I saw your information about that first when I was watching from home here. And what does that mean for this team? What does that mean for this club and for the players today? Having the chief investor with this team in the building.
Look, I need to make this very clear. John Fisher is actually a regular at Earthquake Stadium. I see him time and time again here at the stadium, and it wasn't much of a surprise to see him here. But obviously with the result in Seattle, it was definitely an interesting sight to see Fisher pacing the corridors here at Earthquake Stadium with who I believe was the Intermedia CEO, a good friend of his, I imagine. They both once gave a short conference here at Earthquake Stadium after the Intermedia deal went public. So, Fisher obviously owns a team. I want to believe that he cares for the team, right? He's at the games. I know he also owns the Oakland A's, and he's also a frequent visitor at the stadium there. I don't know if it means much. I don't think that the team is ready to make very top-down changes. Not after going out for Matias a couple of years ago and putting so much time and investment into that. But it's definitely, I think it's a positive for fans to know that their owner, is here, that he's watching the team, and that he's willing to make the drive and make the sacrifice to keep tabs on what is his and what's the future is definitely obviously in his hands.
Joel, I think what the fans want to see is actual investment in this team. Because look, tonight was a positive performance, I think, for the Quakes. They recovered very well from the 7-1 drubbing they had at the hands of the Galaxy. But in order to become, regular contenders in MLS, to be a team that consistently challenges for the playoffs and makes the playoffs, John Fisher needs to invest more in this team. That's the bottom line, and that doesn't change based on anything we saw tonight.
There was an article this week that I was pointed to that actually demonstrated he's increased his investment in the team 30% in the past year. The problem is that most of that investment went into two players, Carlos Fierro and Andy Rios, and they're not performing. If they were playing up to the performance that people expect of them, I think the type of conversation we'd be having would be a little bit different. The problem is those investments are not paying off right now. So more money is going in, at least according to the article. Everything seemed correct that I saw financially, at least based upon the information that we know. Most of it's in Colin's Etnier spreadsheet. But the problem is they're being put into the wrong players for what this team actually needs in order to really turn a corner and become a regular playoff team.
Yeah, John Jay, just a heads up back to you, who's commenting in the chat. Yes, it is Black and Azul After Dark. Exactly, you nailed it. It is Black and Azul After Dark. And you and Leo Beltran both have asked about Danny Houston either filling in that number 9 position and what the status is. And I can see that you were asking that. And Danny Houston put in a good 30 minutes in the last game that he played, but unfortunately he did come off injured. Does anybody have an update on Danny Houston and his status? Go ahead, Jamon.
I'll take that one. So Danny wasn't in the 20 tonight. We don't really have a status from the team, but he was removed from the MLS injury report. So my guess is that at this point it was the coach's decision, based upon what the team wanted to do in this game, that he shouldn't be in the 20. But I won't be surprised if we see Danny Houston return to the 20 for the midweek game. It seems logical to give him another 3 days rest, get over the thigh injury that he sustained against Colorado. And now that he's not on the injury report, it's a good chance that he could return pretty quickly.
All right. Just want to thank everybody for tuning into our program as always. Again, this is a community run program built on your support, your comments and feelings and suggestions, all up and down here in the comments section. So we appreciate everybody for tuning in. Let's go ahead with final thoughts. And I'm going to start with you, Joel Soria.
As I mentioned, a big positive for the Quakes tonight to walk away with a point against their bitter rivals, a team that was coming into this match with a lot of positives behind them, with a lot of impetus. The Quakes were able to stop them in their tracks in a way, and walk away with a point that they desperately needed. And like I said, I think mostly this hard-earned point really benefits them psychologically. A 7-1 defeat is a result that not a lot of teams, not a lot of players can bear, and it takes a huge toll. It could be a season ender for most teams, but this team responded. The changes obviously helped. Matias extended an invitation to us, which we accepted, but according to Carlos Ramirez, a reporter from Telemundo, that will not be able to happen due to the COVID restrictions. But overall, I think obviously a good night for the Quakes, despite not taking all 3 points.
Go ahead, Jamon.
I mean, it was a week of conspiracy and controversy and everything that went along with a 7-1 drubbing, right? But it was also, at the end, something where we have a little bit of hope. And we saw some good things tonight. We'll have to see based upon, health and what type of rejuvenation the players will have over the next few days to prepare for a home game. At least they don't need to travel. and depending upon the air quality as well, what they'll be able to do this week in order to prepare for the Portland Timbers. But I think they realize that they have to bring that 200%, as Matias Almeida put it, to every game, and we kind of heard that in the player portion of the press conference tonight, in order for them really to have an opportunity to climb back into this season. So kudos to Matias Almeida for making the changes. I was also found it intriguing that he kind of lashed out at us a little bit and then actually did the things that we suggested. So that was kind of interesting. But at the same time, kudos to him for making the changes that needed to be made, for making the call to put Nick Lima back at right back, for having the ability to think that maybe Tommy Thompson can be a help in the middle of the field, given the lack of Magnus Eriksson. And, I thought he did the things he needed to do to get points, or at least a point, in a Cali Clasico against the top rival, but a top rival that's playing much better than the Quakes have been more recently. So, we'll see how things go on Wednesday, and we'll see if we see a very similar lineup, or if he feels that he's going to have to do another heavy rotation.
Yeah, I agree, Jim. And I think there were a lot of positives for the Quakes tonight. Lopez played well. Lima played well. The back line, I think they all played well as Daniel Vega in goal. With that said, I think the Quakes are going to have a couple tough weeks ahead of them. They play, the Portland Timbers, LAFC. I would be surprised if they come away with a lot of victories from those games. But I think what makes me the most optimistic is that, in this game, really for the first time this year, I started to see the shape of what the San Jose Earthquakes might look like next year, with Lopez on the left, with Lima on the right, with Flo and Alanis in the back, and I think Shea Salinas and Wando up top as well. I can see sort of the foundations, the outline for their 2021 roster, and I think we know now more the areas where they need to invest in a number 10 and possibly in a new goalkeeper as well. I think that gives them this game helps give them a solid foundation, and it's going to be tough these next couple games, but this was a marked improvement from Thursday night's performance.
Three things for me: the changes, the discipline, the calm and poise with that discipline, and the energy tonight from the San Jose Earthquakes team. And you heard Tommy Thompson in the press conference chat a little bit about that. And he just said it was different tonight. And you saw it. It looked different. It also felt different. While I wasn't there and the rest of the team was there, those are kind of my comments on this evening. And Jamon mentioned a little bit of hope. And you could see the players did play with a little bit of hope. And you just need a little bit of that. And you need a little bit of luck, too, to get some results. And so obviously many games coming up here for this San Jose Earthquakes side. Our team is Black and Azul. You can tune in here at Black and Azul on YouTube. Jamon Moore, Alex Morgan, Joel Soria, Jason Sholl is our executive producer and director. Just want to give him a big shout out tonight for putting this together with all of the press conference video and audio at the same time. It's the first time that we've ever put the press conference with the video on here. If you like it, we like you too. Make sure that you give us a like and subscribe. Tell a couple friends about us as well. Tell them to like and subscribe as well. If you have any feedback for us, just put the feedback into the comments, whether it's bad feedback or good feedback. We want to hear it. We want to grow and we want to grow this community. It's about you guys. So thanks everybody for commenting, for tuning in, and during this very challenging time in our world and in our country. With so much social unrest and social injustices going on, as well as COVID-19 in our communities and environmental destruction, wildfires around us. We can talk here about soccer, and that's something that does unite us at the end of the day. So just wanted to say we're very thankful. We're very grateful. This is episode number 53 of Black and Azul. My name is Charles Wollin. We'll see you next time. Stay safe.